Right now, among the ultra-wealthy, a strange and powerful obsession is taking hold. They're preparing, urgently, for the end of the world. There are many sides to this story, but the most striking is this. Billionaires are building ultra-luxurious, high-tech fortresses designed to shield them from every imaginable doomsday scenario. But unlike old-world castles that towered above the land, these modern sanctuaries are buried beneath it, deep underground. And these aren't bunkers in the traditional sense, not small rooms or basements. What we're talking about here are private underground cities, worth millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars. Miniature worlds built beneath sprawling estates, meant only for themselves and their loved ones. And no, this isn't just a fringe idea pursued by a few eccentric billionaires. This has quietly become a booming industry, one that's projected to grow exponentially over the next decade. So the question is obvious. What do they know that we don't? It all began to gain public attention when Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg purchased a massive tract of land in Hawaii and began construction on a $270 million complex known as Colreen. $250 million. The property spans 5.5 million square meters, is surrounded by 2-meter-high walls, employs hundreds of local workers, and is patrolled by security teams on all-terrain vehicles. But the most important part, it's underground. Beneath the surface lies a 500-square-meter doomsday shelter. Its exact features are, unsurprisingly, unknown. What's been leaked suggests walls thick enough to withstand a nuclear blast, independent energy systems, and its own food supply. Zuckerberg is just one name on a long list of ultra-rich individuals preparing for collapse. It's widely believed that Bill Gates has private bunkers under each of his properties. Elon Musk, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian, Shaquille O'Neal, and even Tom Cruise are all rumored to have built safe rooms or full-scale shelters. PayPal founder Peter Thiel attempted to build a similar complex in the remote mountains of New Zealand in 2022. Though officials rejected his application, reports suggest many of the ultra-wealthy are still favoring New Zealand and Alaska for one simple reason. If all hell breaks loose, nuclear war, chemical disaster, global unrest, these low-population areas will be the last to be hit. But it doesn't stop there. In the US state of Arkansas, an old nuclear missile silo has been repurposed into a $1 million survival bunker. Across Europe, abandoned coal mines and underground tunnels in the Alps are being quietly converted into safe havens. And these shelters are unlike anything you can imagine. These aren't bunkers as you know them. They're not gray concrete boxes. They're not cold steel containers tucked away in a backyard. These are underground resorts. Structures that surpass 5-star hotels in luxury, technology, and self-sufficiency. We're talking about LED systems that simulate sunlight, hydroponic farms that produce fresh vegetables year-round, and aquaponic systems that raise fish below ground. Some shelters include temperature-controlled swimming pools, artificial waterfalls, bowling alleys, movie theaters, spas, fully equipped gyms, even yoga studios. They're micro-nations beneath the surface, completely detached from the world above. Each one includes autonomous water filtration, independent energy grids, chemical and radiological filtration systems, and multi-decade food reserves. Some are built to support not just one generation, but several. Despite being buried under meters of earth, these facilities have full internet connectivity, satellite communication systems, and VR-equipped entertainment rooms. And in case bunker fatigue kicks in, some even have underground gardens beneath artificial skies to preserve the residents' mental health. Yes, really. This isn't survival. It's elite preservation. But it's also something more dangerous. A reminder of how vast the gap between the ultra-rich and the rest of us has become. Most of these luxury bunkers cost between $15 and $20 million to build. Some go well beyond the $100 million mark. And while more companies are entering this space, 2 lead the industry. One of them is called SAFE, Strategic Armored and Fortified Environments, led by CEO Al Corby. According to him, they're now the go-to firm for the ultra-wealthy who want to disappear when the world collapses. One of their clients,
a powerful businessman whose identity remained secret, requested a Doomsday castle so secure he didn't even want his own family found during a riot or attack. So, what did they build? A massive fortress on a 1 square kilometer plot. The walls are strong enough to withstand a nuclear blast from 1.5 kilometers away. That wasn't enough, so they dug a 10-meter deep moat around the property and filled it with water. Still not enough. Then they poured a flammable chemical, lighter than water, that floats across the moat's surface. This way, attackers would be met with walls of flame. Then came the water cannons, designed to knock aircraft out of the sky. And just in case that didn't do the trick, they added barriers strong enough to stop a 120-kilometer-per-hour truck, and gas-filled tunnels to trap anyone who breached the outer gates. It doesn't stop there. This estate contains multiple bunkers, all connected by underground tunnels. If one becomes compromised, the owner can move to another. This isn't paranoia, it's tactical warfare. Some companies have taken this even further. They're selling shared shelters. Yes, like Doomsday timeshares. You pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for access, like a VIP ticket to survival. In the event of a catastrophe, you show up with your family and gain entry, just like checking into a luxury resort, except this one was built for the end of the world. But it begs the question, why now? Why this level of preparation?
Of course, some of this is fueled by pop culture. Doomsday films, apocalypse documentaries, dystopian fiction. The ultra-rich watch them too. And unlike us, they can act on those fears. They have the time, the money, and the access to build real-life solutions to hypothetical catastrophes. But this isn't just a billionaire quirk. The idea of preparing for collapse actually became mainstream in the 1980s. That was the height of Cold War anxiety, when the possibility of nuclear war felt terrifyingly close. A movement was born. Prepping. Survivalism. Ordinary people, not just millionaires, began building bunkers, storing food, collecting weapons, and teaching themselves wilderness survival, just in case. This still exists. Preppers today are everywhere, local, national, even global. They anticipate short-term disasters, like earthquakes and floods, as well as long-term disruptions like civil unrest or global pandemics. They build their own shelters, they learn first aid, they map escape routes, and they train themselves to live without electricity, gas, or government. And honestly, knowing basic first aid, having an emergency plan, or keeping a few cans of food in storage isn't crazy. It's smart, especially when you consider how easily societies forget. As we move further away from the horrors of World War II, our tolerance for risky political behavior grows. Sometimes a third world war doesn't seem all that unlikely. But here's the danger. A legitimate concern, like nuclear risk or climate collapse, can morph into paranoia, and from there, into conspiracy. And the conspiracy theories among some survivalists are wild. Some believe in zombie uprisings, others think the government is creating them in labs. Still others are convinced of an alien invasion, or that the pyramids were built by interstellar architects. For many, prepping isn't just preparation. It becomes an identity, a belief system, and in some cases, a gateway to more extreme ideologies. That's a problem. But here's another. Lumping the billionaire bunkers together with ordinary people's emergency kits? That's a mistake. They are not the same. When an average person spends a few $100s prepping, they're often overestimating the likelihood of a disaster. But billionaires? For them, spending $20 million on a bunker is like you spending $5 on a fire extinguisher. It's not irrational. It's statistically cheap insurance. That's the essence of what philosophers call Pascal's wager. If the world ends and you didn't prepare, you lose everything. If the world doesn't end and you prepared anyway, you only lost some money. But if your wealth is vast, that money doesn't even register. If you had $100 billion, would you spend $20 million to save your family from a 1% chance of extinction? Of course you would. It's not paranoia, it's math. But what's more alarming is that the ultra-wealthy are noticing something else, something bigger. The gap between rich and poor is widening at a scale modern history has never seen. Let's put things into perspective. Right now, the three richest individuals in the United States, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg, hold more wealth than the bottom 50% of the American population. That's more than 165 million people. And that gap is not shrinking. It's growing. In 2019, you needed to add up the wealth of the top 5 billionaires to match half the country. In 2017, it took 6. If this continues, one person may soon hold more wealth than 200 or even 300 million Americans combined. And this isn't just about the US. All over the world, the same pattern is repeating. The rich are becoming exponentially richer, while the poor are becoming even poorer. And history tells us, again and again, what happens when this much power is held by this few people. Blood is spilled, civil unrest, uprisings, revolutions. These aren't science fiction, they're the echoes of our past. And when inequality reaches a boiling point, violence often follows. Maybe that's why these bunkers are being built. Maybe the billionaires sense something that most of us aren't yet prepared to admit. In many ways, today's ultra-rich aren't building bunkers, they're building castles, just like medieval lords and kings did centuries ago. But here's where the comparison breaks down. Yes, feudal nobles built high walls and deep moats to protect themselves from raids and rebellions. But those castles also served a national purpose. They protected nearby towns. They reinforced royal armies. They were part of a country's defense strategy. Today's billionaire bunkers, they serve no one but the owners. They're not built to protect a nation. They're not shared with communities. They are self-contained, self-powered, and self-serving. In short, they are symbols of total isolation, a wall around wealth, a vault for privilege. And here's the tragic irony. Even if these bunkers work, even if they survive a nuclear blast, a civil war, or a climate collapse, then what? How long can you live underground before needing medicine, supplies, spare parts? How long can you last without culture, society, connection? We are social creatures. Human survival isn't just about calories and clean air. It's about meaning, language, article diversity, laughter, learning. What kind of future can possibly be built inside a bunker? Some billionaires are already hiring private militias for protection, just in case money loses its power. Some are signing contracts with post-apocalyptic security firms, promising loyalty even if civilization collapses. But we all know how that goes. When the world burns, money becomes paper. At that point, why would anyone keep protecting them? Let's imagine this scenario actually plays out. A global catastrophe, a mass extinction event. Maybe it's nuclear, maybe it's environmental, maybe it's something we haven't even imagined yet. The world collapses, cities vanish, governments fall. The ultra-rich retreat to their bunkers, their self-sufficient underground fortresses. They survive. Weeks pass, then months. But eventually, cracks appear, not just in the walls, but in the idea. A few hundred people, locked away beneath the earth, can't sustain civilization. They can't manufacture complex medicines. They can't maintain high-tech servers. They can't reproduce diversity, culture, language, or shared memory. Sooner or later, they'll need the outside world. And when they return, if there's even anything to return to, what kind of world will they face? Let's be honest. These bunkers are not a solution. They are a reaction, a bandage, a fortress built not just against collapse, but against accountability. Because many of the billionaires building bunkers are also the ones causing the collapse. They're the biggest polluters. They fund the industries most responsible for greenhouse gas emissions. They lobby against climate regulation. They hoard wealth, deepen inequality, and support the very political systems that destabilize societies. And now, they're building personal escape pods, hoping the rest of us won't notice. But we are noticing, and we're asking questions. Because if they truly believe that the end is near, they should be investing in prevention, not just protection. They should be funding climate solutions, economic reforms, global cooperation, not building lavish concrete tombs beneath Hawaiian mansions. The truth is this. Real survival is shared survival. No one escapes the apocalypse alone. You cannot build a future by hiding from the world, and no amount of money can protect you from the consequences of ignoring everyone else. We must solve the root problems: inequality, environmental degradation, corruption, instability, and injustice. Because without that, all the bunkers in the world won't save anyone. This is the final irony. They're building modern pyramids, just like the pharaohs once did, grand tombs to guard their riches, to carry them safely into the afterlife. But what kind of afterlife awaits in a windowless concrete bunker? It won't be heaven. It won't even be survival. It'll be a slow decay, a museum of failure, a monument to ego. So before we applaud the engineering, before we admire the luxury, let's ask the real question. What would the world look like if they had invested in all of us, instead of just saving themselves?